us up to Washington, D.C. to actually get things done, not burn the place down, and we should be able to fund the government. And besides, building a 30-foot-high concrete structure from sea to shining sea is the most expensive and least effective way to do border security. I represent 820 miles of border, more border than any other member of Congress. I spent almost a decade as an undercover officer in the CIA chasing bad guys all over the world. In places along the border, Border Patrol's response time is measured in hours to days. So a wall is actually not a physical barrier. If we want to address root causes of illegal immigration, we should be doing and working on those root causes in the Northern Triangle, like Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. We should be talking about how do we plus up the State Department budget and USAID budget. How do we work with Mexico, who just announced $30 billion on working on economic opportunities in Central America? These are the things that are going to address root causes of mass migration. It is 2018, almost 2019. We don't have operational control of the border. We should be using more technology. That's why I like to see in this funding of the government, specifically Department of Homeland Security, that we're increasing the funding for technology so that we can determine the difference between a bunny rabbit and a person and use drones. We're not using the latest and greatest technology along the border. That's going to go to help our border security personnel, and it's going to make sure that we're safe.
Listen, your solutions sound a lot more complicated than build a wall. I mean, as you know, that's just, you're talking about something much more comprehensive. And that's not what the president promised on the campaign trail to his voters.
One of the things, actually, I call it the smart wall. By using technology and manpower, you can do it for a fraction of the cost. You can do it under $1 billion, and you can do it within a year. And so if we want to evaluate, what metrics are we looking at? Are we looking at just miles of wall, or are we looking at, are we stopping bad people from coming into our country? Are we decreasing the amount of illegal drugs that are coming into our country? Those are the metrics that we should be looking at and evaluating.
Well, do you think that the argument from your Freedom Caucus colleagues there will sway the president today? Do you think that he's going to sign that continuing resolution to keep the government open or not?
I think ultimately this gets signed and we get done. Let's not make this problem worse. Our men and women in Border Patrol already have a difficult job. There are 2,000 people down. There's 2,000 positions within Border Patrol that haven't been filled. They're dealing with the aftermath of the caravan and all that. And then we're going to introduce even more complexity into this by questioning whether or not they're going to get their salaries around Christmas and New Year's. That makes no sense. I think ultimately we get this done, and then we come back in the new year and continue to have these debates about how we should be spending the government and where the hard-earned taxpayer dollars should be going.
Well, therein lies the rub. Nancy Pelosi will be the Speaker, presumably, of the House in January, and so
I heard that.
Yes. So for all intents and purposes, is the president's border wall dead?
I don't know the answer to that. I think in some places, a physical barrier, replacing some of the existing things. Again, if you're using miles of wall as a metric of whether you're keeping this country safe, I think that's the wrong metric to use. If you're talking about keeping bad people and bad things out of this country, then we can be successful.
Okay, next question. I know that you're very interested in this tent city. Sure. It is in your district in Tornillo. 2,700 migrant children are being kept in this tent city. You want President Trump to close it. Why?
Well, it's 2,800, and this is, we know from, folks that monitor the mental health of children, the longer a child is in a detention facility similar to this facility in Tornillo, the greater the chances of having long-term psychological and mental health issues. So we should be connecting kids to family members as they wait out to get their court case. 1,300 of those kids in Tornillo already have a sponsor, a majority of them family members that have already come forward and been identified, done the fingerprinting, all that. We should be able to release these kids. There's another 1,100 who's waiting on a sponsor. Yeah. But I do have to say HHS made a decision earlier this week that I think is going to help this problem by streamlining the administrative process of reviewing these sponsors. We still want to make sure we're putting kids in a safe environment. We can do that and reduce this throughput of kids and make sure that we close this temporary facility by the end of the year.
Do you believe that up until that move that you just talked about this week, that the federal government was slow walking the approval process to place these kids with sponsors?
I think there was a deliberate effort to elongate this process. We know the process to adjudicate a sponsor or a family member doubled in the last couple of months.
And so why would they do that?
I think they were thinking of this could be potentially a deterrent from people coming here, just like, separating children from their mother's arms. They thought that was a potential deterrent. If you're messing with children as your strategy for border security, then you need to go back to the drawing boards. But new leadership at HHS ORR, that's the Office of Refugee Resettlement, which is managing these children, who understands child psychology, and they're making tough decisions that's better, one, for our country, and is in line with our values.
I want to ask you about the president's big decision that he announced about Syria.
I know what you're going to ask. It's terrible, by the way. It is terrible. This is on Syria. Our allies weren't notified. Senior leaders in our government and the military and the intelligence community wasn't notified. This is something I look at national things that do with national security. What do our allies and what do our enemies think? The fact that Russia and Iran and Bashar al-Assad, the president of Syria, who caused 6.2 million refugees from his country, killed hundreds of thousands, including women and children, the fact that they were all excited and happy last night, and that our allies were upset. And why does this matter for us? There's a little thing called ISIS. There's still roughly 300,000 ISIS fighters across Iraq and Syria. There is no doubt they are on the run. My friends in the military, my friends in the intelligence community have laid the hammer down. These ISIS fighters are on the run. But they can have the ability to regroup. And when they do that, what is their target going to be? It's going to be the United States of America. And the reason ISIS was so dangerous was their ability to inspire people, even if they were 6,000 miles away. We cannot allow them to have the ability to regroup and to train, equip, and run operations unencumbered. And let's be honest, the real threat to Russia, Iran, and Syria in that part of the world are the anti-Assad forces. The anti-Assad forces is fighting ISIS. This is the coalition that we built, and we should be making sure that we are making sure that the American people don't have to deal with ISIS in the future, and that's why we should stay.
Do you think the president will change his mind on this one?
Well, the reality is nobody knows what this order saying that we got to leave is, right? Is that right away? Are you getting on flights tonight? There is a lack of specificity of what the order is. So is that something that can later be determined 6 months from now, 9 months from now, a year from now? I do not know. And whether this decision is going to change, it's difficult. But this is, I think Lindsey Graham said it yesterday, this is equivalent to President Obama's decision to pull out of Iraq, which led to the creation of ISIS. There's going to be thousands of people killed as soon as we pull out. These are forces that we've been training, that we said we are with you. And the reality is 2,000 folks on the ground, U.S. men and women in the military. It's a small footprint, especially compared to what the Russians have in the region, what the Iranians have in the region. When you look at the Syrian army as well, the fact that we are having such an impact with such a small footprint is an indication of how great our U.S. armed services are. And so this has an important role in keeping our homeland, keeping Americans safe, and I hope this decision is reconsidered.
We should remind people you were a former CIA undercover officer. Congressman Will Hurd, thank you very much for sharing your perspective with us.
Always a pleasure to be on.
John.
Next, the president's nominee for Attorney General shared his thoughts on the Mueller probe in a June memo, and they are highly critical. Could that memo now threaten his chances to be confirmed? That's up next.
The holidays are here. Make the most of the road home. Hurry in to receive a credit of up to $3,000 on select models now through January 2nd.
Well, here's to first dates.
You look amazing.
And you look amazingly comfortable.
When your V-neck looks more like a U-neck, that's when you know it's half-washed. Add Downy to keep your collars from stretching. Unlike detergent alone, Downy conditions to smooth and strengthen fibers. So next time, don't half-wash it. Downy, and it's done.
Smart News.
Most of the time, my husband's wrong. But when he's right, it's thanks to Smart News.
So we both love Smart News.
It has news that matters.
Plus, Smart News is 100% free.
He's right.
Finally, download Smart News for free now.
It's time. From Disney, experience the holiday movie event that's now been nominated for Best Picture of the Year.
We're on the brink of an adventure.
It's a big-hearted spectacle for everyone.
Marvelous.
Mary Poppins Returns, rated PG, now playing.
Have you ever seen the emerald waters of Barbados? Or seen a butler walk on water to please you? Have you ever stayed in the world's most romantic suites? Or dined at 11 world-class restaurants in one resort? Have you ever imagined such 5-star luxury is all-inclusive? Sandals Barbados, where exclusive is always inclusive. Call 1-800-SANDALS today.
For small businesses, payroll is complex and time-consuming, and mistakes can mean tax trouble. Sure Payroll makes it easy to pay employees and file federal, state, and local taxes with accuracy guaranteed, all done online in minutes, and with award-winning support, even on weekends and evenings. More time for you, less time on payroll and taxes. For 1 month of free payroll, visit SurePayroll.com now or call 844-SURE-PAYROLL, SurePayroll.com.
You're getting mighty comfortable.
Well, when you're part of the CNN family.
You know, you're only co-hosting with me on New Year's Eve. You're not part of the CNN family.
Let's get after it, Cuomo.
Andy, my man. Andy Cohen, Anderson Cooper, New Year's Eve Live.
If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. If you ride New Jersey Transit trains or buses, or live or work near a station, you know when something doesn't feel right. A person, a bag, or box. If you see something, say something.
This is Chief Trusillo of the New Jersey Transit Police. If you see something suspicious, say something by calling us at 1-888-TIPS-NJT or texting NJTVD.
In New Jersey, for too long, too little got done, and too few benefited. So we're building an economy that works for every family. A path to fully funding public schools, middle-class tax relief, stronger equal pay laws, funding Planned Parenthood, restoring homestead rebates, lowering health insurance costs.
But there's more to do, starting with a higher minimum wage. Families shouldn't have to wait for bigger paychecks.
We're making New Jersey stronger and fairer. Join us.
Anderson Cooper 360, tonight at 8 Eastern on CNN.
President Trump's pick for Attorney General William Barr is facing new scrutiny. A newly revealed memo sent to the Justice Department by Barr in June is highly critical of the Mueller probe, and in particular, Robert Mueller's handling of the investigation into the firing of former FBI Director James Comey. Joining us now, CNN Chief Legal Analyst Jeffrey Toobin. Counselor, good to have you.
Think about this. William Barr, private citizen, out of the blue in June, sends a 20-page memo to the Justice Department saying what Mueller is doing is a violation of the Constitution. I think we have a much better idea now of why he's picked to be Attorney General.
It wasn't that he was an establishment stabilizing force. It was that Donald Trump knew he was already on
Quite the opposite, that he was an establishment stabilizing force, that he knew he was getting a passionate opponent of the Mueller investigation.
We'll read a portion of it for your listening pleasure.
Dramatic reading.
Yes,
dramatic reading. Here we go. As soon as they put the words into the... There we go. Securing an official transcript from the committee would be a necessary step before pursuing an indictment. What?
Wait, there we go.
Wow. It never fails, really. You know, it just never fails.
Live TV, baby.
Yeah, that's what this is. Here we go. Now, here is the William Barr memo. Mueller should not be able to demand that the president submit to an interrogation about alleged obstruction. That's really his beef, the obstruction part. If embraced by the department, this theory would have potentially disastrous implications, not just for the presidency, but for the executive branch as a whole and the department in particular. So he is stuck on the obstruction part. He doesn't think that that is a legit area of inquiry for Robert Mueller.
And nor should the president submit to an interview on that subject. That's the specific part of the memo that's being discussed there. But it is a very expansive view of presidential power and a particularly hostile take on the Mueller investigation.
Almost Kavanaugh-esque, one might say.
I mean, even more explicit.
So
than
what
Kavanaugh.
does that mean for his confirmation?
Probably not much. This is the advantage of having a Republican Senate, and now it is a slightly expanded Republican majority. I don't see this as something that will get Republican votes against him, but it's just a good sign of the conflict that may come if Mueller's investigation continues.
And one question, Laura Coates, who was on earlier, raised the possibility, could this lead to a recusal? Seems to be clearly a political problem for him, but is it that kind of a legal conflict, or is this simply one man's opinion?
I think it's his opinion before he took office. If you remember how obsessed the president was with Jeff Sessions' recusal from the Mueller investigation, I don't think the new attorney general is going to run into that buzzsaw. Yeah.
Okay, so what I just accidentally teased there was that Robert Mueller is looking for the transcript from Congress of when Roger Stone testified in front of them. Maybe we have that I should read now? No. Either way, why wouldn't Congress hand that over? Why wouldn't Congress give Robert Mueller? Here it is. Securing an official transcript from the committee would be a necessary step before pursuing an indictment that Stone allegedly lied to lawmakers, legal experts say. That's why they may want it.
That is why they may want it. And you know, Mueller has been fixated on Stone for quite some time now. And why? Roger Stone made statements during the campaign that he was in touch with WikiLeaks, that he had inside information. You know, his famous email that said, John Podesta's time in the barrel is coming, shortly before the Podesta emails were released. The question has always been, did Stone, as an affiliate of the Trump campaign, though not formally on the Trump campaign, have some sort of inside information, inside source?
Because he acted as if he did.
He acted as if he did. And what did he say to the intelligence committees about that under oath? Mueller has not indicted Stone yet, but he has acted in a way that he looks like he's about to indict.
But why doesn't he just interview him himself?
Well, the custom in the Justice Department is if someone is a target about to get indicted, you don't talk to that person. That is sort of the and Stone has not heard from Mueller, which is suggests that he's an
ominous sign usually.
Yeah, and the other reason, I mean, he has these sworn testimony from Stone, and if you look at Mueller's pattern, charging people with lying to investigators has been the primary way he's indicted people so far, other than the Russians.
Speaking of that pattern, there's, of course, the case of the payments to Stormy Daniels that created big trouble for Michael Cohen. And so far, the legal defense seems to be ignorance. The president didn't really know campaign finance law. But there's a thing called tape. And we went back in the Wayback Machine and found a video of Donald Trump in 1999 talking to Larry King.
Talking to our great pal, Larry King.
Yes. Saying something quite the opposite. Let's take a listen.
I think nobody knows more about campaign finance than I do, because I'm the biggest contributor.
But what about reform?
Well,
does it need reform?
It's a very complex.
You're the reform
you know
party.
what? It's a very complex thing. As an example, I'm allowed to give $1,000 to every senator, right? Do you know how little that is? This was 20 years ago, $1,000. Now, I love it because, you know, I'm capped out at $1,000 per senator, and they all love me for it. You know, I give them $1,000, it's great.
Nobody knows more about campaign finance than me. Does this create a real problem, or is this just, you know, truthful hyperbole?
Donald Trump engaging in hyperbole, it's hard to imagine such a thing could have taken place even in 1999. You know, it's embarrassing. I think it's indicative of we often say there's a tweet for everything. He's tweeted on every subject under the sun. He's commented on every subject under the sun. It's not dispositive. It's not going to prove anything. But, as the president claims and his supporters claim that, well, he didn't know that the money to Stormy Daniels or Karen McDougal could be seen as a campaign contribution. Well, it turns out he's a big expert on that.
Next, Judge Emmett Sullivan. He's had a busy week.
Yeah.
So he's now a household name, right? So first he had the Flynn sentencing, which was a shocker for lots of people in the courtroom. And then he ruled on the president's asylum position, and he ruled against the administration in terms of who can seek asylum. And conservatives' heads are sort of exploding. I think that they had thought that Judge Sullivan would be on their side, but he's proving to be an independent thinker.
Sullivan is a quirky independent thinker, and this goes back all the way to the travel ban and all the president's efforts to limit immigration. What all these judges have said, in one way or another, are you have to change the laws that Congress controls, not just use administrative power if you want to change immigration procedures in a profound way. Now, that's often hard to define what's within the realm of the executive branch and what's within the realm of Congress. But when it comes to asylum, according to Judge Sullivan, what counts as a legitimate reason for asylum, that's up to Congress. It's not just something the executive can do on his own.
There you go.
How about that?
Jeffrey,
Independent thinking.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice to see you both.
Too. All right, a power company in California being blamed for more than a dozen wildfires. But did they break the law? We have a CNN investigation for you next.
The first time I saw Gene Wilder in person, I was hooked.
He made her feel that she deserved to live life. Gene had created a family atmosphere.
It felt like my life went from black and white to Technicolor.
I want to be with you. Yes, I do. Everywhere you go, I want to be with you.
The greatest wish of all is one that brings us together. The final days of Wishlist are here. Sign and drive off in a new Lincoln with 0 down, 0 do it signing, and a complimentary first month payment. Only at your Lincoln dealer.
Your insurance rates skyrocket after a scratch so small you could fix it with a pen. How about using that pen to sign up for new insurance instead?
For drivers with accident forgiveness, Liberty Mutual won't raise their rates because of their first accident. Switch and you could save $782 on home and auto insurance. Call 1-888-592-3456 for a free quote today. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
My name is Jeff Sheldon, and I'm the founder of UgMonk. Before ShipStation, it was crazy. It's great when you see, 100 orders come in, but then you realize I got 100 orders that I actually have to ship out. ShipStation streamlined that whole process. The order data, the weights of the items, everything is seamlessly put into ShipStation. So when we print the shipping label, everything's pretty much done. It's so much easier. So now we're ready, bring on the orders.
ShipStation, the #1 choice of online sellers. Go to shipstation.com/TV and get 2 months free.
Wolf, you old dirt dog.
Andy?
Hey, Brooke.
Are those my slippers?
No. You wish.
Andy Cohen, Anderson Cooper, New Year's Eve Live.
Ever notice there seems to be a Berge Chevrolet everywhere you go?
Because our customers say their experience here was like no other. We help you shop for the vehicle that's right for you.
Get employee pricing all this month and lease a 2019 Equinox for only $127 a month. Or an all-new 2019 Silverado for just $256 a month.
Let us help you find a Chevy car or truck that you want.
And find out what a difference a dealership can make at Berge Chevrolet. From our family to yours.
Merry Christmas!
I'm a veteran.
And the Army taught me a lot about commitment, which I apply to my life and my work. At Comcast, we're committed to delivering the best experience possible by being on time every time. And if we're ever late, we'll give you an automatic $20 credit. My name is Antonio, and I'm a technician at Comcast. We're working to make things simple, easy, and awesome.
Hope, the most powerful man in history. Christmas Eve starting at 5.
Investigators are looking into whether California's largest public utility, PG&E, is responsible for the catastrophic Camp Fire, the deadliest fire in state history. They've already found that PG&E's equipment caused 17 fires in October of last year. CNN's Drew Griffin explains.
This area was my studio with big windows.
This is all Norma Quintana has left of the home she lived in for 30 years. A macabre reminder of the day her physical world turned to ashes.
The fire was behind us.
She and her family had 5 minutes to escape the Atlas fire in fall of 2017. When they returned, it was all gone.
I couldn't negotiate the loss. I couldn't negotiate the loss of a home. Couldn't.
Across Northern California, the fires in October of 2017, fueled by high winds and drought, would kill 44, burn 8,900 homes and other buildings. As the burning ended, the burning question began. How did this happen?
We had a number of fires that were the result of some type of ignition from power lines.
CAL FIRE investigators concluded that 17 of the 18 fires in October of 2017 were caused by equipment from Pacific Gas and Electric, the multi-billion-dollar power company. In 11 of those fires, investigators found evidence PG&E violated state law. James Engel oversees fire investigations for CAL FIRE.
Is PG&E doing enough in your mind?
Well, that's not my call to make. So when in the case of those particular fires, they were referred to the district attorney if there's violations of law.
It's actually been going on now for years. 1994, 99, 2004, the Whiskey Fire in 2008, the deadly Butte Fire in 2015. Fire after fire that investigators found were caused by a power company failing to follow state regulations to trim trees or maintain equipment.
You see a pattern in practice that PG&E is not willing to step up to the plate and do what it needs to do to prevent these utility-caused wildfires.
Attorney John Fisk has built a practice suing power companies and specifically PG&E for causing fires that are destroying Californians' lives. He's doing it, he says, because the state of California won't.
If you had a company that was out in the Atlantic and it kept starting hurricanes, and the government just kind of continued to let it start hurricanes, again, you'd consider that behavior to be almost sociopathic because people's lives are absolutely devastated.
PG&E was convicted of 6 felonies because of a gas pipeline explosion in 2010. Just last month, the president of California's Public Utilities Commission announced a new review of PG&E, telling the Wall Street Journal he was very concerned they, PG&E, still don't have accountability in place.
Is PG&E getting the message, do you think?
I think you're going to have to ask them.
We tried, but the company declined, and instead sent a lengthy statement saying it expanded its community wildfire safety program, improving real-time monitoring, enhancing vegetation management efforts, conducting accelerated safety inspections, installing stronger and more resilient poles. Critics point to the way PG&E has spent its money, awarding its CEO salary and stock worth $8.5 million in 2017 and spending another $8 million lobbying lawmakers in Sacramento to get a law passed that allows PG&E to pass some of the cost of the fires onto customers. Now PG&E is dealing with this. Last month's Camp Fire in Northern California killed 86 and destroyed the town of Paradise. Equipment from PG&E is being investigated as a possible cause. Attorney John Fisk says it has to stop.
You know, in these wildfires, oftentimes the most vulnerable members of our community are affected because they're immobile and they cannot get out. That's how devastating these wildfires are. That's why it's so important that these companies change their practices. It's a matter of life and death.
Asked specifically about the state investigative reports that found the company violated state law in 11 of those deadly fires last year, PG&E would only say it's looking forward to reviewing those reports. Prosecutors are reviewing them too and deciding if they will again pursue criminal charges against the massive power company. In the meantime, the homeowners, like Norma Quintana in our report, who lost her home, are suing PG&E. Drew Griffin, CNN, Atlanta.
People have lost so much there. They deserve answers.
Needs to be accountability and answers.
Yes, Drew Griffin's investigations are so helpful towards those.
Good stuff. All right, well, now here's a thought exercise that's good for your brain. A new study could have you making a new resolution for 2019.
Wait, does it involve running?
It involves reversing the effects of a foggy brain.
I like that, but do I have to run?
Maybe.
Oh.
We'll tell you more later.
The typical vacuum head has its limitations, so Shark invented Duo Clean. While deep cleaning carpets, the added soft brush roll picks up large particles, gives floors a polished look, and fearlessly devours piles. Duo Clean technology, corded and cord-free.
Put a smile on everyone's face this holiday with great gifts from Amazon, with low prices and fast, free delivery with Prime. For everything you need this holiday, visit Amazon.
With TripAdvisor, finding your perfect hotel at the lowest price is as easy as dates, deals, done. Simply enter your destination and dates and see all the hotels for your stay. TripAdvisor searches over 200 booking sites to show you the lowest prices, so you can get the best deal on the right hotel for you. Dates, deals, done. Read reviews, check hotel prices, book things to do. TripAdvisor.
Do you have any idea how your mattress affects your body and how well you sleep? Is it too hard or too soft, causing you to wake up with sore shoulders, back, or hips? Are you uncomfortable because you're too hot or too cold? Now you can get the total body support you need and the better sleep you want with the new MyPillow mattress topper.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell. When I invented my new MyPillow mattress topper, I made it to have everything you'd ever want in a topper. My mattress topper helps give you the support you need, helps relieve your pressure points, and regulates your body temperature for you as an individual. It comes with a 10-year warranty. You can wash and dry the cover. It's made in the USA, and I back it with my 60-day money-back guarantee.
Go to MyPillow.com or call now to get your very own MyPillow mattress topper. Use the promo code and Mike will give you 30% off and 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free. Order now.
MyPillow topper delivers on its promise to give me a better night's sleep.
I can sleep all night through, and it's a miracle for me.
Mike's exclusive 3-layer design starts with a layer of MyPillow foam, providing you superior support and comfort. The second layer of transitional foam evenly distributes body weight and helps relieve uncomfortable pressure points for optimal comfort. Mike's ultra soft outer layer is a patented temperature regulating cover that helps keep you at your ideal sleeping temperature all night long. Unlike other sleep systems costing thousands, the MyPillow mattress topper takes comfort to a whole new level without any wires, remotes, or moving parts. Call now or go to MyPillow.com to order your MyPillow topper. Use the promo code to save 30%. When you do, Mike will give you 2 of his standard MyPillows absolutely free. That's right, 2 standard MyPillows free and 30% off your MyPillow topper today. Order now.
I personally guarantee it's going to change your bed into the most comfortable bed you'll ever own.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Give a gift that brings the ones you love even closer with a DNA kit from 23andMe. And this holiday, get 30% off each kit at 23andMe.com.
I got a certain way I like to do things. I like Consumer Cellular. I get unlimited talk and text for just $25 a month. They received the J.D. Power Award for highest customer service again.
And Consumer Cellular has been an approved AARP provider since 2008, so we trust them. Reliable nationwide coverage for way less money? That's the way.
We like it.
Now, for a limited time, get a $20 credit on any new line of service. Call, go online, or find us at Target.
Ho, ho, ho! Phil Swift here. This holiday season, get everyone on your shopping list
the Flex Seal family of products. I think I'm going to need a bigger sleigh.
Okay, there's a new study that we have to tell you about because it has a potential way to reverse brain function decline. I can't wait to hear what the answer to this is. It finds that a certain amount of exercise, oh no, will help your thinking skills. CNN's Sanjay Gupta is live from Atlanta with more. Sanjay, before we get into how much exercise, you're going to break it to us.
I think you're going to like this answer.
Okay,
by the way,
good. So why is this particular study getting so much attention from the medical community?
Okay, there's been, I think, a lot of wisdom out there for some time that exercise is good for you, right? I think people have known this.
Blah, blah.
Blah, 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 right? But the idea that it could actually have this significant impact on your brain health. Again, people have sort of intuitively known this, but it hadn't been studied quite like this before, and I think that's why it's getting attention. They essentially took people, there was 160 people, average age around 65, and they split them into 4 groups. One group was primarily doing aerobic exercise, another group primarily doing diet, another group doing both, and a 4th group who was really doing none of this at all. And what they found was that, as you might expect, diet and exercise had the most significant impact, but exercise, much more so than diet, really seem to have an impact on your overall brain health, what they call your functional brain age. So these people are actually able to reduce their functional brain age by 9 years. That's a good thing after 6 months of exercise. So I think the reason it gets attention is because, first of all, it proves something that we've known but haven't really proven, and it showed just the significant impact that exercise can have on the brain, and much more so than diet alone.
That's really cool.
Okay, now break it to us. How much exercise?
Yeah, no, it was not bad. So 6 months, but it was 10 minutes of warm-up and then about 30 to 35 minutes of either stationary bike or sort of fast walking. It wasn't sprinting. It wasn't even weight training that seemed to make the big difference. So it was a truly aerobic exercise, but more moderate intensity aerobic exercise, certainly not extreme.
Okay, that is good news. I really could do that.
You can do that. Anybody can do that, right?
It's just fascinating that actually can help your brain in addition to everything else.
By 9 years.
Yeah, that's a big deal. 6 months of exercise, 9 years of improvement over, debasing your brain. That's pretty good.
There appears to be all these various mechanisms by which this occurs. It could be increased blood flow to the brain, but there's these different what are called neurotrophic factors, basically these building factors in the brain. We have a lot of those when we're young. The brain is growing, it's building, it's developing. As we get older, these neurotrophic factors, if we don't exercise or do something to keep them stimulated, they start to go down. This idea that your brain just naturally declines over time is not necessarily true. You can have a very well-functioning brain, into the last days of your life if you maintain these neurotrophic factors. So that's part of, I think, again, what this study is really proving out.
See, Sanjay, what's really interesting is that, okay, everybody knows I don't love exercise. I think we've established that on the show, but I am very good about my diet. I mean, I'm generally healthful. And so you're saying that doesn't matter really as much.
Well, I got to be really clear on this. I think diet definitely matters for so many things. And by the way, the reason a lot of people are watching and thinking about this is probably thinking about weight loss more than they think about brain health. When it comes to weight loss, for example, I think diet is far and away superior. Think about it. All your calories in just come in through diet. Calories burned, you can only burn about 10 to 20% of those calories through exercise. So even if you exercise all the time, you're not going to burn the calories that you're putting in. So with weight loss, diet far superior. But with regard to brain health, for whatever reason, maybe some of the reasons I just mentioned in terms of why, but for whatever reason, exercise seems to be far superior to diet when it comes to slowing down the cognitive decline that we associate with aging. So, and again, it wasn't intense exercise. 35 minutes, 6 months, you gain 9 years in cognitive health. That's pretty significant.
It's huge. I mean, you are saying that the all barbecue cardio diet, not a good mix. You got to a little bit of moderation, but then keep this in and you'll actually maybe even get smarter. It's pretty good stuff.
Don't scrap the diet, though.
Okay, but hold on. One last thing. Okay. We talk about Ruth Bader.
I haven't convinced her yet.
We talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg so much.
Yes.
And about how she is just, so on it. She's just, a great thinker. Her response time is like that. And we always see her, badass exercise routine. Is it connected?
She was in the gym, I think, just soon after she broke a rib. I mean, I broke ribs. I was in bed for a week after that happened. I mean, it was really impressive. I think it certainly helps. And again, people have known, okay, you exercise, good for the heart, must be good for the brain. They've thought this for a while. But the idea, especially at a time when you have, a lot of schools, public schools especially, cutting out physical activity time, to really be able to have a study, certainly that shows the impact of physical activity on brain health, I think, a lot of people should pay attention to that. I think it's no question it's helped someone like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Certainly helped a lot of people of advanced age to maintain that mental sharpness, that mental acuity.
All right, Sanjay, you win.
All right.
That's
my Christmas present to you.
We'll go for a walk at some point this week.
Make it brisk.
Okay. Thank you. Cool. Thanks, Sanjay.
You got it.
All right. So the president defending his plan to pull U.S. troops out of Syria. New Day continues right now.
We have won against ISIS. Now it's time for our troops to come back home.
To say they're defeated is an overstatement and is fake news.
I don't like spending a penny more than we have to in the Middle East.
Mr. President, we're going to back you up if you veto this bill.
Shutting down the government over Christmas is a terrible idea.
I'm sick of the games. Most importantly, the American people are sick of the games.
Give me your arms. Sir.
Hurry. 2 sheriff's deputies in Texas pulling off an incredible rescue.
This is New Day with Allison Camerata and John Berman.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to your New Day. It is Thursday, December 20th, 8 o'clock in the East. John Berman is off. John Avlon joins me. Great to have you here.
Always fun.
You done with your Christmas shopping?
No.
Okay, fantastic. So we'll wrap this up over the next hour, and you can head out.
And then we'll bail. Emotional support chicken, then Christmas shopping.
I love when you make the joke from 6 a.m.
It's important.
As of this hour, President Trump is standing by his controversial decision to pull U.S. troops out of Syria, despite bipartisan outrage over this plan. Several senators have sent a letter to the president asking him to reconsider. One of them is his staunch ally, Republican Lindsey Graham, who called the decision, quote, a stain on the honor of the United States. The president claims that ISIS is defeated, but experts disagree, and they fear that he will create a power vacuum. One person, though, who is happy with the decision this morning is Russian President Vladimir Putin. He has just announced that he agrees with President Trump.
Meantime, the Senate passed a stopgap funding bill to avoid a partial government shutdown. If passed by the House and signed by the president, it'll keep the government funded through the holidays until February 8th. The Democrats ensured the measure does not include money for the president's border wall. So are they prepared to gain the House? Have Democrats essentially prevented President Trump's signature campaign issue, the wall, from ever being built?
All right, joining us now to shed some light on what's going on inside that White House is White House correspondent for the New York Times and CNN political analyst Maggie Haberman. Maggie, great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
It seemed from the outside as though yesterday the president was flailing a bit in terms of not getting his border wall, and even after he had said that he was willing to shut down the government, but then Mitch McConnell going in a different direction, and then it seemed abrupt and sort of out of left field that he decided to make this announcement about Syria. In fact, his generals didn't know it. The Pentagon hadn't been briefed. So what was happening there?
I think you are correct to link these things. You had one instance, which is the budget fight where the president was bending. He was caving, frankly, pretty clearly, according to his most ardent supporters on Capitol Hill. He was abandoning, even if not permanently, at least in this moment, a campaign pledge to build a border wall that his supporters have believed he would do. And I think we're willing to give him a fair amount of latitude on for the first 2 years. But this was the best chance to get that through with a Republican-held Congress. It is very unlikely to happen going forward. And then what's a way to overshadow that? A way to overshadow looking weak is to look, quote unquote, strong by saying you are pulling out of Syria, which was another campaign promise. The problem is that pulling out of Syria is not really something that you can just do with a wave of a wand. It requires a plan. It requires answers on how this is going to take place. It requires a notification to Congress. It requires working with partners, and it requires at least an ability to make a coherent statement about why you are doing this and why this is in U.S. interests. These two things were related. But what happened with Syria yesterday, and again, we still don't know what this is going to look like, but it was a major, major moment that, as you noted before, appeared to only clearly please one person, and that is Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, and that's not a good look for this president or any American president. But, of course, the problem with the questions of war and peace by tweet, as you point out, is the Pentagon's taken unaware, Congress and senators taken unaware, and a lot of the president's closest allies really turned on him. Didn't think he was looking strong by withdrawing. In fact, quite the opposite. Here's Lindsey Graham yesterday comparing him to President Obama.
I know this, if Obama had made this decision, Republicans would be all over him.
And that is far from the only senator coming after him.
Right, and it's striking considering that, as you note, it's Lindsey Graham who has been one of his staunchest defenders over the course of the last year. Look, this decision is reminiscent of what President Obama did in 2011 when he started withdrawing troops from Iraq. That decision has been criticized as helping provide a breeding ground for ISIS. You have allies and you have other members of the military saying, despite what the president says, that ISIS has been defeated, it has not been defeated. It still stubbornly controls, it might be smaller, but it does stubbornly control an area along the Syria-Iraq border. And just saying that it's been defeated is not going to eradicate that. The fear is that there are not enough troops who are trained to replace U.S. forces that are on the ground, that you're going to have to rely on other people's military who are not equipped the same way. And again, this, as we said before, there was no clear forethought that was articulated as this was announced by tweet. This is another one of these things, too, where you have seen some tension between the president and the defense secretary, Jim Mattis. We first started seeing this in 2017 when Jim Mattis had been slow-walking the president's demand that there be a ban on transgender members of the military. Things have devolved since there, and once again, you had Mattis imploring the president not to do this, saying that it could create chaos in its wake, saying that it could lead to all sorts of unknown instability in the region, and the president just went ahead and did it.
You know, this morning I've been joking, but not really, that I've been monitoring Fox and Friends because the president watches Fox and Friends. And this morning, our friend, Brian Kilmeade, is really taking the president to task over this, saying that it's a horrible idea. And it just makes me think, look, Maggie, you know, the president sometimes doesn't stick with one position. Today, he might switch his plan on pulling U.S. troops out of Syria.
Right, except that not everything, to your point, he might, indeed, and not everything can be done as an oops, I'm just going to undo this. Even if he did that, it then creates such a sense of instability about the U.S. government, with our allies, with people who are watching the U.S. to see what the U.S. will do, to see if the U.S. is going to stick to what is in its stated interests. And this, you know, unlike the border wall, where he has been able to sort of tweet and kind of try to mask what he is actually doing with public rhetoric, withdrawing troops from Syria is not really something that you can claim that you're doing one thing and not do something else. Reality is catching up with this president who has done a great deal over 2 years to try to create his own version of reality. Objective reality is beginning to, outweigh that.
Facts are indeed stubborn things, is what you're saying. Same theme, the president's stick-to-itiveness, but on the shutdown. So John Cornyn yesterday, after the Senate passed the CR, sounded very confident that the president would sign this. But he's been taking heat from members of the Freedom Caucus, taking heat among a lot of his allies in the conservative media environment. Do you think this is a done deal, or could the president decide he's going to veto and let the chips fall where they may?
I think that we will see all kinds of signals that he might not sign this up until the moment that he signs it. And I think the reason he's going to sign it is, at the end of the day, two things. Number one, shutdown, the president stated, and he really boxed himself in that meeting with Chuck and Nancy, quote unquote, a couple of weeks ago in the Oval Office, that he would proudly own a shutdown. But the reality is that nobody wants to own a shutdown. A shutdown is not good politics, despite everybody claiming there might be some net benefit after a period of time. A shutdown around Christmas is just not good. A shutdown ever is not good, but a shutdown around Christmas is going to look particularly bad. And don't forget, the president himself wants to go away for Christmas. He wants to leave for Mar-a-Lago, his Palm Beach property, later this week. If there is a shutdown, he can't do that. And so I think that he is as eager to get out of Dodge as a lot of lawmakers are. But I think that, look, what the criticism that he is receiving from his supporters, Ann Coulter, Mark Meadows, you name it, down the line, right, is not small, and it's the first time that we have seen it at this volume. So that might impact what he does over the next 24 hours. I don't think it impacts what he does ultimately.
And of course, there's also a question about what this would mean for the fate of his campaign promise on the border wall. Once Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats take control of the House, if that means that he would ever get his border wall. And so this morning, something interesting is happening, Maggie. There is a rebranding afoot.
I saw that.
Did you? So there's
the
a
slats.
tweet.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Yes,
I just was, so what does the tweet say about the wall? It says that. Here we go. The Democrats who know steel slats
Paren wall. It's now primarily steel slats, secondarily a wall.
Are necessary for the border security, are putting politics over country when they're just beginning to realize that I will not sign any of their legislation, including infrastructure, unless it has perfect border security.
USA wins.
So now his new gambit is he won't sign any of their legislation.
Right.
And I've never heard him address it as border slats. So what's this about?
The goalposts have moved, right? I mean, he realizes there is not going to be a concrete wall, so he has to start rebranding it for his followers to look as if he is the one who created this, and this was not foisted upon him. And again, that will work with some of his supporters. It will work with some of his base. The problem is that you can't constantly try to wave away your previous statements and assume that nobody is watching. There is a weight to these. There is a certain collection of them over time. Again, his supporters, Mark Meadows and Coulter, didn't do him any favors, but they didn't do him any favors because they know where his voters are. But they are reminding people that this really was the last chance. If he was serious about getting this wall, you don't sign this continuing resolution to keep the government funded through February 8th. They are reminding people that while the president's going to blame Democrats when they take over next year, this was in his control to some extent. He just made a choice that was easier, which is, by the way, what every president does. It's just that not every president speaks in the absolutes that this one does.
That's right. And in fact, during the last budget season, he swore he'd never do it again. In very, very stark terms. So, I mean, he's in a very tough place. Now in that tweet, he's trying to pass the buck and say he'll deny infrastructure, but it's far from clear he's going to have the leverage.
It's also right. What is clear right now is that Nancy Pelosi holds a lot of cards. And I think that you saw that reaction on Capitol Hill yesterday, that she is clearly winning this process right now. I think the takeaway that a lot of people had, myself included, after his meeting in the Oval Office with them a couple of weeks ago with Senator Schumer and the speaker, the soon-to-be speaker, Nancy Pelosi, was that each of them had gotten what they wanted, right? I mean, the president got to sort of have this dramatic fireworks display, which I think was momentarily pleasing to him, certainly, and to some of his supporters. But Nancy Pelosi also got what she wanted, which was to lay down a marker that she is not going to be shoved around. And after this head-to-head over funding the government, she's the one who's going to look like she came out on top. That's a win for her as she is going into her new speakership.
And so didn't Senator Mitch McConnell also box the president in? I mean, he didn't have to get this passed in the Senate. He didn't have to bring this up.
Well, he knows what the politics are for his caucus, right? I mean, and Mitch McConnell is an institutionalist who cares about the Senate, and he cares about his members not having a problem. He does not consider, I suspect, a shutdown to be good politics for his caucus, and so he wanted this to go ahead. He thinks that it is the president's problem. The Senate has made pretty clear. He didn't have to bring this up, but he kind of did, because they've made very clear to the president, we are waiting on you to tell us what you want. And that has happened time and time again, where the Republican-led Congress has said to the president, who is the leader of the Republican Party, tell us what your priorities are. And he doesn't. He tries to sort of pick a menu of options where he chooses about 3 of them, sometimes in conflict with one another. And I think that McConnell was not going to take that chance again.
And the result is chaos. One other thing that came up over the evening is a memo written by Attorney General nominee Barr that really does lay out a pretty breathtaking view of executive power, doing a brushback pitch to the Mueller probe, specific as it relates to obstruction. Maggie, what are you hearing? I mean, it seems highly likely that this influenced the president's decision to pick him, not that he was sort of an establishment consensus figure.
It's not clear that the president knew this memo had been sent, but certainly I think this is a view that Barr had articulated to the president. The thing the president said to people in the White House over and over as he was searching for his new attorney general to replace Jeff Sessions was he was obsessed with the question of, will somebody have to recuse themselves from the Russia probe? He talked to aides about this constantly. Barr clearly would not have to because he wasn't part of the campaign, and so that wouldn't even come up as a related question. But Barr had also made clear that he considered the piece of this investigation that the president considers most odious, which is the question of obstruction of justice, that he considers that to be a misuse of power, and that, I suspect, was quite pleasing to the president.
Maggie Haberman, great to get all of your reporting shared with us. Thank you so much. All right, up next, they take over the House in less than 2 weeks. So what is the top priority for Democrats? Incoming Majority Leader Steny Hoyer joins us next.
And later, they ran towards the flames and pulled a man out of a burning car. And now the deputies who saved a life are telling us the story behind this incredible video.
Daddy diaper duty. I can't say it's the highlight of fatherhood, but I'd rather be here with my little man than not be here because of migraine. I had 3 words for migraine. I am here.
Aimovig, a preventive treatment for migraine in adults, reduces the number of monthly migraine days. For some, that number can be cut in half or more. The most common side effects are pain, redness or swelling at the injection site, and constipation. Talk to your doctor about Aimovig and be there more.
In these cold and frigid months, when we're feeling the temperatures drop, there are children and families with absolutely no protection. Maria is one of those children. She's just an innocent child who was forced to flee her home and run for her life. Maria and thousands of other refugees are in serious danger this winter as they struggle to keep warm and stay alive. Imagine how they must feel. No warmth, no proper clothing, no shelter. It's devastating to imagine any child shivering in the cold. But you can help them right now by going online or calling USA for UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, with your gift of just $21 a month, only 70 cents a day. You'll give these families the life-saving support they so desperately need. You'll give emergency shelter, food, and blankets. Just imagine the desperation of trying to keep your children alive. Imagine the unbearable pain of watching your family suffer. As temperatures drastically drop, we urgently need your support today. Please take a moment right now to call the number on your screen or visit forcedtoflee.org with your gift of only 70 cents a day. Children are at risk of dying right now. Don't wait to help them. Call this number or visit forcedtoflee.org with your support right now.
Have you been told you need neck or back surgery? If so, you do have a choice. Call Laser Spine Institute and say yes to a pain-free life with our minimally invasive spine surgery. It's safer than open back surgery, letting you get back to living life on your terms.
I can lift my son high over my head again.
If you have spinal stenosis, bulging or herniated disc, sciatica, or other chronic spine conditions,
call 1-800-216-BACK now for your free MRI review.
Thanks to a less than 1-inch incision, you'll be up and walking within hours of surgery, so you can get back to your life in days instead of months.
I feel like Laser Spine Institute was an answer to prayer.
Join the thousands of people every year who say goodbye to chronic neck and back pain with Laser Spine Institute. Make today the day you say yes to living a pain-free life.
Call 1-800-216-BACK now for your free MRI review.
So overnight, the Senate passed a stopgap spending bill in an effort to prevent that partial government shutdown at the end of the week. The bill is, at the moment, expected to pass the House today, and then it must be signed by President Trump before it can take effect. Let's get a status report on this and so much more. Joining us now is incoming House Majority Leader, Democratic Congressman Steny Hoyer. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning, Alice. Good to be with you.
Good to have you. So has a government shutdown been averted, or will some of your conservative colleagues in the House scuttle this?
No, I'm hopeful that we will pass the bill that's coming over from the Senate. It's unfortunate, however, that we're kicking the can down the road as opposed to resolving this issue, which I think was certainly within our reach. There are 7 appropriation bills which are pending and have not been passed or signed by the president. Six of those have bipartisan agreement. And very frankly, the 7th, Homeland Security, has overwhelming agreement, save for the wall. What we offered and what we would have thought a better policy was to pass the 6 on which we have agreement and fund those agencies through the fiscal year, and then do a CR which is a continuing resolution which gives authority to spend money to Homeland Security for the balance of the year. Therefore, we would be stable and people would know what resources they had for the coming year. Now we have till February 8th, a short time, and we're going to have possibly another crisis where we fight about the wall. And that simply doesn't make sense. It's not economically responsible. Right. We ought to get on to our agenda, which deals with health care, which deals with education, which deals with wages and jobs, and reforms. That's what we ought to be doing.
Well, look, listen, I think that Americans have gotten used to Congress kicking the can down the road in terms of funding. I understand what you're saying you should do, but here's what I want to get your take on. You know, some of the president's most ardent supporters, some of his conservative base are saying that he's caving. That if he signs this, he's caving because he drew that line in the sand, that he wasn't going to bend unless he got his, you know, all of his money for the border wall. So do you think there's a chance he doesn't sign it?
Allison, my belief is we're going to have a majority of the Republicans vote for this bill today. They're going to vote for this bill because they think it's the responsible thing to do. It may not be perfect, but as I have said, the overwhelming majority of the spending in this in the bill has been agreed to by Republicans and by Democrats, so that just punting. Yes, they've become used to kicking the can down the road, and the public ought to get better than that from their Congress, in my opinion. We ought to, if we agree on 95% of a bill, we ought to pass it.
Yes. And as you sit there today, you believe the president will sign this?
I hope he will sign it, and my expectation is he will sign it, yes.
Okay, why do you think the president announced yesterday? Tell me about the timing and what you think of his announcement that he's going to pull U.S. troops out of Syria.
I thought it was impulsive, irresponsible, and dangerous. And I would hope that the president would reconsider. The only people happy today about this decision, in my opinion, are the Syrians, the Iranians, the Russians, and ISIS and its allies. It was a terrible decision that puts our country in a bad spot, but more importantly, puts some of our allies, like the Kurds, in a very terrible spot, who have been helpful to us. And it encourages ISIS. It doesn't defeat ISIS. The fact that the president says we have won is, as Senator Graham said earlier today, is fake news. We haven't won. And all of his advisors, all of the president's advisors, have indicated that we ought to be staying there to keep things as stable as possible and not to create a vacuum which Russia and ISIS and the Iranians are going to fill. It is a very dangerous and ill-advised decision, in my view, and I think the majority of Congress will share that view.
It's been reported that the president had a phone conversation with Turkey's President Erdogan before he made this announcement. Do you think that that's connected? Do you think that he took some sort of cue from Erdogan?